Part 13. States' rights were a huge hurdle to a national Christianity. When the colonies were initially established, almost all of them had their own official Christian sect. By 1776, those had evolved into distinctive colonial and religious identities, along with a North-South sectional identity. A North Carolinian might well think of himself as an Anglican, and a North Carolinian, and a Southerner, and finally an American. Even Thomas Jefferson, in a 1785 letter to the Marquis de Chastellux, described Northerners as, quote, superstitious and hypocritical in their religion. Then he went on to praise Southern Christianity, telling the Marquis that the South had, quote, no pretensions to any religion other than their own, unquote. Jefferson was a deist, but his roots were still embedded in Southern Christianity. Adding to the problem, while the states pretty much used the same high-level Protestant definition of Christianity, there was no agreement on any particular theology. Virginian Anglicanism was quite different from New England Congregationalism, and both were very different from Maryland Catholicism and Pennsylvanian Quakerism. There were issues of money and power as well. The official legacy denominations had grown entrenched and powerful over the decades and fought hard to protect their status and political power. This dynamic continued even as the post-revolution states built official religious freedom and tolerance into their post-1776 constitutions. Criminal prosecutions for personal religious violations dropped to almost nothing in the years leading up to 1776. But prosecutions against competing Christian preachers from the other colonies and states continued until well past 1800. We can see this in the records. In July 1641, in Massachusetts, Obadiah Holmes, an illegal and unlicensed Baptist minister, was whipped to within an inch of his life for unapproved preaching. In 1658, Massachusetts banned both Baptists and Quakers for espousing heretical Christian theology and expelled several of them. 4 of the expelled Quakers, one of them named Mary Dyer, refused to take the hint and returned, and Massachusetts proceeded to hang all 4 of them in 1660. But almost a century later, by the 1740s, prosecutions for personal religious violations were fading. America was full of unlicensed sects and radical Christians, but the colonies continued to try to enforce their religious monopolies. In 1749, Isaac Backus, a separatist preacher in Massachusetts, refused to pay taxes to support the official Congregationalist church. He was arrested and fined, but was released and continued his Baptist ministry in Massachusetts for the rest of his life. It was the same thing in the southern states. The Anglican Church tried very hard, through the courts and otherwise, to keep competing foreign Christian sects from making inroads. Between 1770 and 1800, approximately 30 Baptist preachers were arrested in Virginia, with various, not especially severe, penalties. For example, one Baptist preacher, John Weatherford, was arrested in 1773 in Chesterfield County, Virginia, for disturbing the peace. He spent 5 months in jail, spending every day preaching from his jail cell to adoring crowds, and was released when he finally agreed to leave the county. Now, none of this worked. It was impossible to keep the various groups out. But by 1787, the different and conflicting state Christianities were deeply embedded in each state, with the country's culture moving away from coerced Christianity and the new Constitution being unabashedly secular. The very idea of layering a national Christianity over the existing traditional state theologies, which was guaranteed to anger somebody or everybody, was just unthinkable. The states' rights were just a hurdle too high.